that level, so I would not.
Yeah, it's setting a very, very high bar, but that's what these guys before him have done. All right, next one, and more quarterbacks. Would you believe Jackson Dart winds up getting drafted ahead of Shedeur Sanders?
I would believe this. I would, because back position.
I put a pin in that one. I want to come back to it in a minute with Schrager, but here's the last one for you. Steelers will take Jalen Milroe with their first-round pick. Would you believe it?
Green, I'm calling the audible on this one.
Yeah.
Originally, I said I would. I think more so I was talking myself into that because of, again, traits by Jalen Milroe. Mm-hmm. I'm going to say would not. I think as much as we talk about his athletic ability, the warts in as far as playing the quarterback position, we can't ignore that.
Yes.
We can't ignore the way that Jalen Milroe played this past season, especially the latter part of the season. I don't think those are things that teams can ignore, so I'm going to say would not.
For those of you at home, that's why it took so long for the graphic to go up. He literally changed his mind in the moment.
Yes.
Score that one, not the fault of our staff.
That's
working
right.
hard behind the scenes. Well, you're wondering to yourself, well, I don't know anyone saying Jalen Milroe is going to go 21 to the Steelers. Yes, you do. Dan Orlovsky said it yesterday here on Get Up.
I'm more intrigued with the Steelers and Jalen Milroe than I was 2 or 3 weeks ago. I would start with this. I don't think that there's a team in the NFL that is in a worse situation when it comes to the quarterback position than the Pittsburgh Steelers. And this is a guy that has rare physical talent when it comes to Jalen Milroe. So I understand he's flawed, but I don't think he's nearly as flawed as a passer as some people believe.
All right, Mike Tannenbaum, I'm looking at the face on Traeger, but I want to start with Mike T, because I know you made your living evaluating these sorts of things. What are your thoughts here? Jalen Milroe as high as 21.
Yeah, right player, wrong round. You know, we talk about floors and ceiling. He has a high floor. He has 77 touchdowns between passing and running. He has a ton of ability, and the ceiling's very high. But right now, from the pocket, his completion percentage is just average and needs to get better, Greeny. When you're the Steelers and you pay $30 million a year, excuse me, at a second-round pick for DK Metcalf, you want to win right now. Jalen Milroe is a win-tomorrow quarterback, and that's why, to me, it's very inconsistent to take him at 21 and give up a second-round pick for Metcalf.
Yeah, listen, and I mean, it chokes me up just thinking about it, too. Here's the thing, Schrager. I mentioned earlier in the hour, I mean, I've been working on these players since January. Jalen Milroe's name was being talked about like in the late second, third round. All of a sudden, he's invited to the draft. He's coming. There's a lot more buzz than I would have expected. Should we be expecting Jalen Milroe to go in the first round of this draft?
No, but it could happen. Here's what he brings. He brings something in a package this year where you put him in on the red zone and you give him 5 plays a game. You give him 10 plays a game, and then you let him learn from a veteran quarterback, and eventually he's your guy. If you're the Steelers and you're assuming that Rodgers is not your quarterback, Milroe at 21 wouldn't be the pick. You've got a veteran team with veteran wide receivers. The team that I would look for is a team that has a guy that maybe they're not 100% certain is the long-term future that you could put him in, like a Seattle. They signed Sam Darnold to what, a 3-year deal. Sam Darnold has had ups and downs. Seattle wouldn't take him at 18, but if we're sitting at 27, 28, 29, 30, you want to trade back in, that's the Milroe pick where, all right, Darnold's struggling, don't worry, we've got Milroe, or it's 3rd and 6 and we want to have a splash play. Let's put Milroe in there. He does the read option and we get it. This is not a full-time quarterback in year one. He's certainly not a quarterback of a team that went to the playoffs last year and still sees a window with veteran guys.
Listen, to spend 5 consecutive minutes with Jalen Milroe was to love him. He was here in studio. So what I'm about to say, I say as someone who will root for him forever. Jalen Milroe, after the Georgia game last year, which was in September, threw more interceptions than he did touchdowns, and 2 of those touchdowns were against Mercer. So, I mean, this was a struggle of a season in his final year in college. I agree. He has enormous talent. It is a project, and perhaps a long-term one. I saw out of the corner of my eye, you sort of reacted when D. Wood said, I could see Jackson Dart going ahead of Shedeur Sanders. What were you looking at?
Look, there's some buzz locally here in New York about Jackson Dart being the preferred quarterback to Shedeur Sanders in the Giants organization. I would say this, if the Giants were to trade back into the first or to trade back and take Dart over Sanders, understand they have done their work on Dart too. There was a lot of news that Shedeur Sanders was getting another visit, and they've been to 13 people went to the pro day. Take a look at these facts right here. They've done as much work and have been in the building at Ole Miss as much as they have for Shedeur Sanders. Furthermore, Joe Shane has a kid who's an analyst at Ole Miss, so you've got people there. And then Charlie Weiss Jr. is the one calling the plays. And if you look at Brian Daboll and his history, and of course, Mike, you know this, and D. Wood, you know this, Charlie Weiss and Daboll through the Belichick tree have a lot of connections as well. The Giants will know everything they need to know about Jackson Dart. So if they take him over Shedeur Sanders, it's not just them throwing, pun intended, a dart at the wall. It's because they've done just as much work on that player as they have on Shedeur.
Okay. I'm calling the courtroom to order. Here's what I'm thinking, Tannenbaum. So I'm putting together what Traeger told us at the beginning, which is that the Giants are taking phone calls, whatever the word is, maybe listening to trade offers at 3. Why? Because they're interested in taking a quarterback but don't want to take him at 3. It's too high. So maybe you accumulate a little more stuff, you move back a little bit, and they move back and take the quarterback, and maybe the quarterback they like is Jackson Dart all along. Are you buying it, Tannenbaum?
Yes, sir. I like it a lot. And more specifically, you could do it one of two ways, your way or take Carter/Hunter. When Peter talks about moving back up into the first round, let's keep in mind, really important, you get that 5th year. And that becomes more and more important when we see these veteran salaries for quarterbacks at $60 million plus per year. So either scenario works for the Giants. Ideally, they get 2 good players in the first round.
Okay, I like it a lot. Let me leave it there for the moment. We'll all find out together on in this as well. What is your perspective on all this, Mike T?
Grady, I think what I'm saying is totally fair. And let's just focus in on the Giants because obviously there's a lot of speculation about what may happen. Look, if I'm Brian Daboll, my seat is warm. I just want to go win as many games as possible and ignore the noise. I know that's easier said than done being on the hot seat in New York. But here's what I would say. You can win a lot of games with Shedeur Sanders. I think he's Kirk Cousins. I think he's accurate, good arm, great anticipation. He's a lot better than what they've had at quarterback. If you're worried about the noise, about what he brings, you're worrying about the wrong things. I think what I'm saying is true, but what a great head coach does, he leads by example and he blocks out the distractions. That's whatever head coach needs to do, including Brian Daboll, if in fact Shedeur Sanders becomes a Giant.
What do you think of all this, D. Wood?
I think where there's smoke, there's fire. And think about it. Shedeur Sanders, the only person he's ever been coached by has been his father.
Yes.
And so when you bring in a prospect like Shedeur Sanders in a quote unquote volatile situation, that's the only thing. That's the only logical place that people want to point to. Is this a place where Dion could possibly end up coaching his son?
Collegiate stops. Peter, you and I were just talking during the break. Like the delta on what might happen with Shedeur, I can't remember ever seeing this before. He might go 3. He might go in the second round.
Green, you got to go back to Johnny Manziel, Tim Tebow, these kinds of quarterbacks where all it takes is one team, but there is not a consensus that this is the guy. And yet both of those players, who are very different, went in the first round. With Shedeur, I almost feel like the media, and I'll point to ESPN and NFL Network, they're all complicit in building this stock up to where he was considered early on in the process, a number 2 overall possibility, a number 3 overall possibility. I've been talking to teams since the Combine. I had nobody telling me Shedeur Sanders is a top 5 pick, and yet I looked at all these mock drafts, and Shedeur Sanders was listed as a top 5 pick. So now we're here at the draft, and suddenly Dion's camp is quiet. Shedeur we're not hearing from. Look, I hope it all goes great for him on Thursday night, and number 3 overall, the Giants say Shedeur Sanders, and we all say, look, we told you, Shedeur Sanders, 3rd overall. But this could go a wide variety of ways, and some of them that we did not anticipate as a collective just a couple weeks back.
Listen, in our meeting this morning, I had said, there's really not a quarterback that I'm really enamored with. We know Cam Ward is going to go number 1, but my whole feeling is, none of these guys are really first-round picks. And that, to me, is what the most intriguing thing about this draft is. We don't know where the heck these guys are going to end up because there's no one logical fit for any of these guys past Cam Ward.
Mike T., final word.
Yeah, I think context is everything. I disagree with what Peter said from this standpoint. If you're the Steelers, the Browns, the Giants, and even the Saints with Derek Carr's situation, Shedeur Sanders is a really good player, and if you don't have a quarterback, you could go win a lot of games. We've talked a lot about the Zach Wilsons of the world, the Trevor Lawrences of the world, Anthony Richardson, guys with great tools that weren't great quarterbacks. Green, you talked about it a lot. Shedeur Sanders can play productive winning quarterback. where he gets drafted Thursday night is the beginning of the story. If the four of us were running a team and we needed a quarterback, we would be really happy with Shedeur as our starter.
I agree. Listen, we talk a lot about high floor. He has a very high floor.
Rồi bây giờ sẽ lộn ra nhé. Đấy. Được cái phần mũ này. Giờ mình sẽ làm cái phần trang trí mình gắn vào. Sử dụng cái phần len xanh này để làm phần trang trí nhé mọi người. Mình gỡ lên ra. Rồi bây giờ mình sẽ móc cái phần nơ để trang trí nhé. Đây, móc vào đây. Mình sẽ móc 2 mũi bính trước này. Sau đó sẽ móc xuống đây. Mình lấy lên 3 lần len nhé. Đây. Lấy lên 3 lần len. Tiếp tục mũi nữa này. Rồi, móc tiếp nhé. Móc xuống. Đấy, được một nửa của cái nơ rồi này. Mình sẽ móc tiếp nửa còn lại nhé mọi người. Rồi, móc tiếp nữa này. Rồi, tiếp tục móc xuống. Cứ luân phiên từng mũi cho mình nhé. Tiếp nha mọi người. Rồi mũi tiếp theo.